You know that moment when a friendship starts feeling different, when their touch lingers a little too long, their laughter feels a little too sweet, and suddenly every conversation carries an energy you can't explain. That's when friendship begins to blur into something much deeper. In this video, I'm going to reveal the 4 undeniable signs that you're no longer just friends. The subtle shifts that show emotional attraction is quietly taking over. If you've been questioning your connection, these signs will open your eyes to the truth. There is something magnetic and undeniable about unspoken emotional tension, that silent current running beneath every interaction, pulling 2 people closer without a single word being exchanged. It's in the way your senses heighten when they walk into the room, how your heart beats just a little faster before your mind even registers their presence, as if your soul recognizes something your logic hasn't yet caught up with. You catch yourself noticing details you've never paid attention to before. The subtle way they smile when they're amused, the warmth in their eyes when they look at you, or even the small shifts in their tone when they say your name. There's a heaviness in the air when they're around, not the kind that suffocates, but the kind that makes you hyper-aware of every movement, every glance, and every word exchanged. It's a tension that feels both exhilarating and terrifying, because deep down you know that this is not the way people look at someone they're just friends with, and yet neither of you says anything, because the silence itself has become its own language. This tension is not loud or dramatic. In fact, its power comes from its subtlety. It's in the way your conversations take on a different energy, where even the most ordinary topics feel charged with emotion. You notice how your interactions have slowed down, how time feels different when you're together, how a simple moment can stretch into something that feels significant, even sacred. There is no need for grand gestures or obvious confessions, because everything is communicated through micro expressions, the slight widening of eyes, the way their body leans toward you, the pause they take before responding to your words. There's an intimacy in those pauses, a vulnerability in those lingering stares, a depth of connection that doesn't need to be explained or verbalized. It feels as if both of you are aware of this underlying attraction, but you're both too caught up in savoring the mystery of it to disrupt it with labels. This kind of emotional tension creates an energy that extends beyond physical attraction. It's spiritual, emotional, and psychological all at once. It's what makes you think about them long after they've left, replaying your conversations, analyzing the way they looked at you, remembering the exact tone of their laughter. It's a pull that goes deeper than desire, because it makes you feel seen in a way that's rare and almost unnerving. This tension changes how you perceive yourself in their presence. You become more aware of your own body language, your own words, and your own emotions. It's almost as if your connection with them places you under a soft spotlight, revealing layers of your personality that don't come alive around anyone else. You start to anticipate their reactions, feel their mood shifts, and read their emotions almost instinctively. This heightened awareness creates a bond that feels intimate without needing to be defined, a closeness that no one else around you seems to notice because it exists quietly beneath the surface. What makes unspoken tension so powerful is that it lives in the space between restraint and desire, between what you feel and what you allow yourself to express. It's in the way they brush past you and your body reacts instantly, in the way your conversations feel like a dance where neither of you wants to move too fast because the anticipation is too intoxicating to let go of. There's an intensity in this kind of attraction that no words could ever capture, because it's not based solely on physical beauty or charm. It's based on something deeper, something rooted in in emotional resonance, in an energy exchange that neither of you can fully explain. The chemistry is undeniable, but it's not loud. It's quiet, steady, and consuming in the way only true emotional connection can be. And that's why this tension feels so captivating, because it doesn't demand attention. It simply exists, growing stronger with every silent glance, every fleeting touch, and every moment of closeness you share without ever needing to speak it out loud. One of the clearest signs that friendship is transforming into something deeper is the shift in how much care and attention one person begins to give to the other, often without even realizing it themselves. This is not the kind of casual concern that comes from politeness or obligation. It is a deeply instinctive form of protection that emerges when someone begins to emotionally invest in you on a level that surpasses friendship. You notice it in the way they pay attention to your needs without you ever having to say a word. They notice when you're uncomfortable in a room full of people and subtly position themselves closer to you. They pick up on the smallest changes in your tone, the slightest drop in your energy, and they respond with a level of attentiveness that feels deeply personal. It's as if they've become attuned to your emotions in a way no one else is, and their instinct is to create a safe space for you, both emotionally and physically. When someone develops protective feelings for you, their actions start to reveal their intentions before their words ever do. You may notice them walking on the side of traffic when you're together, subtly guiding you away from crowds, or instinctively stepping in when someone speaks to you with disrespect. They begin to prioritize your comfort in ways that seem natural to them but feel deeply meaningful to you. These gestures may appear small to an outsider, but to you, they are unmistakable signs of emotional attachment. This attentiveness is not performative. It's not about showing off or trying to impress you. Instead, it is a quiet but powerful expression of care that comes from a place of genuine feeling. They don't just listen to your words, they study your expressions, they sense the emotions you try to hide, and they react to them without needing explanation. This level of attentiveness often creates a feeling of safety that you can't quite explain but deeply appreciate. You start to realize that they are not just present with you physically, but emotionally invested in your well-being. They remember small details you casually mention, a favorite snack, a place you want to visit, a book you love, and they bring these details up later, proving that they don't just hear you, they truly listen. They begin to anticipate your needs, noticing when you're cold before you reach for a sweater, recognizing your stress before you even voice it, and stepping in with gestures of reassurance that make you feel deeply cared for. This is a level of presence and emotional investment that friendship alone doesn't always demand, and that's what makes it so telling. It's the subtle shift from someone who is there because they enjoy your company to someone who feels responsible for your happiness and comfort. What's even more fascinating about this behavior is that it often shows itself in the smallest, most unspoken ways. You notice it in the way they look at you when you're talking, fully present and deeply engaged, as if nothing else in the room matters. It's in how they naturally position themselves to shield you from discomfort, whether it's standing closer in a crowded place or offering a comforting word when they sense you're uneasy. It's in the softness of their voice when you're upset, the firmness in their tone when someone crosses a boundary with you, and the quiet reassurance in their presence that makes you feel like you don't have to fight your battles alone. This attentiveness can sometimes catch you off guard because it feels different from what you're used to. It feels intentional, like they see your value in a way others don't. and they are willing to put effort into making sure you feel that this protective energy becomes more noticeable over time. And while it may never be explicitly stated, you can feel the depth of it in your interactions. It's in how they prioritize you, in how they go out of their way to make your life easier, in how they show up for you when you need them most without you even asking. It's a reflection of emotional closeness, a sign that their feelings have surpassed the boundaries of friendship. And while they may not verbalize it, their actions speak volumes. It's not about control or dominance, but rather a natural instinct to nurture and shield someone they care deeply for. And when you start to experience that level of protection and attentiveness, it's impossible not to notice that your relationship is evolving into something much more profound. There is a unique kind of energy that begins to surface when a friendship quietly transitions into something more. And one of the clearest signs is the subtle yet undeniable presence of flirty energy and playful banter that wasn't always there. This energy feels light-hearted on the surface, but beneath it is an undercurrent of tension and attraction that adds depth to every exchange. It's in the way they tease you about little things, the way they make jokes that seem harmless to others, but carry an intimacy that only the two of you share. These moments often feel effortless, almost instinctive, because the chemistry between you flows so naturally. Their laughter feels contagious, their words seem to linger longer in your mind, and even the simplest conversations feel charged with excitement. This playful energy becomes a kind of dance, a rhythm that you both fall into without needing to think about it, and it makes every interaction feel refreshing and addictive at the same time. Flirting in this context doesn't always look like traditional compliments or overt gestures. It's more subtle, more personal, and deeply emotional. It's in the way they challenge your opinions playfully, the way they give you a hard time in a way that feels affectionate rather than critical, and the way their jokes are often layered with hints of admiration or attraction. You notice that they remember little things about you, and they use those details in a teasing way, creating inside jokes that no one else understands. This kind of dynamic creates a sense of closeness that feels exclusive, like you share a private world within your friendship that others can't quite access. What makes this energy so magnetic is that it is both comfortable and exciting. It feels natural, like you've always had this connection, yet it also carries an element of unpredictability that keeps you intrigued. Body language often becomes an essential part of this playful energy because attraction finds ways to express itself physically even before it is acknowledged verbally. You may notice how they lean closer when speaking to you, how they maintain eye contact a little longer than necessary, or how their smiles come more easily when you're around. These subtle gestures of closeness often blur the lines between friendship and romance, creating an emotional charge that's hard to ignore. Even casual touches, like a hand on your shoulder or a playful nudge, begin to feel different, carrying a spark that deepens your awareness of them. These gestures aren't random. They're instinctive responses to a growing connection, and they add to the playful atmosphere that now defines your interactions. The way they joke with you, look at you, and engage with you physically becomes a language of its own, one that speaks volumes without saying anything directly. This kind of flirty energy is often filled with layers of emotion because it isn't just about making each other laugh. It's about creating a safe space for emotional vulnerability through humor and playfulness. You may notice that your conversations have become more personal, yet they're often wrapped in humor, making it easier to share deeper parts of yourselves without fear of judgment. They might tease you about your quirks, but their tone is always affectionate, never mocking, and you find yourself feeling more comfortable with them than anyone else. This dynamic creates a unique blend of safety and excitement, where you feel understood, appreciated, and admired all at once. It's a form of emotional intimacy that doesn't rely on grand declarations, but instead builds through consistent, meaningful interactions that leave you feeling lighter, happier, and more drawn to them. The most fascinating part of this playful energy is that it often feels effortless. You don't have to try to impress each other because the connection already exists, and the teasing becomes a way of strengthening that bond rather than testing it. You find yourself laughing more, smiling without realizing it, and anticipating your next conversation with them. Their humor feels like it was tailored just for you. Their compliments are often disguised as jokes, and the way they playfully challenge you creates a spark that keeps the connection alive. It's in these small, seemingly insignificant exchanges that you start to notice your relationship has shifted, because this type of playfulness doesn't come from a place of casual friendship. It comes from attraction, admiration, and emotional closeness that runs much deeper than either of you may be ready to admit. When friendship begins to evolve into something deeper, one of the most telling signs is the shift in physical closeness. This isn't always intentional or deliberate. Often it happens subconsciously, as if your bodies naturally gravitate toward each other. You begin to notice how often they choose to sit near you, how their hand might brush against yours, or how they lean in just a little closer when speaking to you. These subtle gestures create an energy that words could never capture, an intimacy that feels natural yet undeniably charged. It's in the way their hugs linger longer than they used to, how their presence seems to wrap around you like a blanket, and how being close to them feels less like a coincidence and more like an unspoken desire. There is an electricity in these moments, a quiet spark that awakens a deeper awareness of their presence. And you start to notice that this level of closeness doesn't happen with anyone else in your life in quite the same way. This closeness extends beyond mere physical space. It's a reflection of trust, comfort, and attraction merging together. It's not about grand romantic gestures or obvious physical moves. It's about the little moments that feel significant, even though no one else around you seems to notice. It's in the way they naturally find excuses to be near you, whether it's leaning over your shoulder to show you something on their phone, guiding you through a crowded space with a gentle hand on your back, or playfully bumping into you during conversations. These small touches are not random. They are an unconscious expression of emotional connection. You start to recognize the pattern, that their body language is open, inviting, and always oriented toward you, signaling a deep sense of comfort and emotional closeness that surpasses the boundaries of friendship. What makes this kind of closeness so powerful is that it communicates feelings that words often fail to express. The simple act of being near each other carries meaning, as if proximity itself has become a form of intimacy. Their touch feels different. It's warmer, more intentional, and it lingers in your mind long after it happens. You find yourself remembering the way their hand brushed against yours, or how they leaned in just a little too close when whispering something to you. These moments of closeness create a soft yet undeniable tension, a magnetic pull that makes you hyper aware of their presence even when they're not actively touching you. It's as if the space between you has become charged with something deeper, a connection that neither of you is fully verbalizing, but both of you are feeling deeply. Increased physical closeness often reveals itself through body language before it ever becomes verbal. verbalized. Their posture shifts toward you instinctively. They make eye contact longer. Their shoulders angle in your direction, and they mirror your movements without even realizing it. They might casually rest their hand near yours, lean in when you're talking, or stand close enough that you can feel their warmth. These are not overtly romantic gestures, yet they carry an emotional depth that cannot be ignored. There's a subtle protectiveness in the way they position themselves near you, a desire to create a sense of safety and connection through presence alone. This kind of closeness doesn't just happen with everyone. It's a sign of emotional intimacy building in silence, creating a bond that feels unspoken yet deeply understood. The beauty of this physical closeness is that it often feels effortless, as if your bodies are naturally drawn together. You find comfort in their touch, reassurance in their presence, and excitement in the way they bridge the physical gap between you without hesitation. Even small, playful gestures like a gentle nudge or a teasing push carry an undertone of affection that doesn't exist in casual friendships. Over time, this closeness begins to feel like second nature. Sitting next to each other becomes the default. Sharing space feels natural, and their presence becomes something you subconsciously crave. There is a kind of intimacy in this closeness that goes beyond attraction. It's an emotional connection that has found its way into the physical realm, and it's through these subtle moments that you begin to realize your relationship has shifted into something far more meaningful than friendship ever was. One of the most profound signs that a connection has moved beyond the boundaries of simple friendship is the level of emotional vulnerability that begins to unfold between two people. This kind of vulnerability isn't something that happens with just anyone. It is reserved for the relationships where trust has been deeply established, where emotional safety is so strong that guards come down naturally. You notice it when conversations shift from light and casual topics to deeply personal ones, when someone begins to share parts of themselves that they don't show to the rest of the world. They let you see the insecurities they hide from others. They tell you stories from their past that shaped who they are, and they trust you with their fears, their failures, and their dreams. This emotional exposure signals a depth of intimacy that friendship alone cannot contain, because to be truly vulnerable with someone is to hand them the power to hurt you, yet still trust that they won't. This exchange creates a profound emotional bond, a sense of closeness that feels rare and irreplaceable, and it marks a shift in your relationship that cannot be ignored. Vulnerability in this context is not about oversharing or dramatics. It is about authenticity. It's the comfort of being able to sit in silence with someone and not feel pressured to perform or impress. It's being able to express your emotions freely, to cry without shame, to admit your flaws without fear of judgment. You notice how natural it feels to open up to them, how safe their presence feels, and how their reactions are filled with empathy rather than criticism. There is a softness in the way they listen, a depth in the way they respond, and an unspoken reassurance that you are truly understood. This kind of vulnerability doesn't just deepen emotional closeness. It builds an invisible thread of trust that ties two people together on a soul level. It's not about always having the perfect words to comfort each other, but about simply being present, being there when it matters, and creating a space where both of you feel seen and valued. As emotional vulnerability grows, the conversations you share become more meaningful, and they begin to reveal parts of their inner world that very few people ever get to see. They might talk about their childhood, their pain, their deepest regrets, or their hopes for the future, and they do so with a sense of comfort that signals how deeply they trust you. They no longer feel the need to present only the polished version of themselves. Instead, they let you see their raw, unfiltered emotions, and this is a privilege they don't extend lightly. In return, you find yourself opening up as well, sharing your own truths, your own struggles, and your own emotions in a way that feels freeing. The relationship begins to feel like a sanctuary, a safe place where you can both lay down your defenses and simply be yourselves without fear of rejection. What makes this kind of vulnerability so powerful is that it creates a connection that feels both fragile and unbreakable at the same time. Fragile, because exposing your deepest emotions is always an act of courage and risk, but unbreakable because when someone accepts those emotions with love and respect, it solidifies a bond that few experiences in life can rival. It is in these quiet, honest conversations that attraction deepens, not just because of physical chemistry, but because emotional intimacy is the foundation of real connection. This vulnerability creates a sense of closeness that goes far beyond shared laughter and good times. It is forged in moments of truth, in shared pain, in mutual understanding, and in the kind of emotional transparency that makes you feel like you are truly known. And when two people reach this level of openness, when they can lay their souls bare without fear, that's when you know this relationship has transformed into something profoundly meaningful, something that cannot simply be categorized as friendship anymore. When friendship begins to cross the threshold into something more, jealousy and possessiveness often become some of the clearest emotional indicators, even when neither person is consciously aware of it. These feelings don't always present themselves dramatically or with obvious outbursts. Instead, they often reveal themselves in subtle ways. A quiet shift in energy, a fleeting expression in their eyes, or a subtle change in their tone when they notice someone else capturing your attention. It's in the way they suddenly grow quiet when you mention another person's name, or how they instinctively ask questions about someone new in your life, not out of casual curiosity, but out of a deeper need to understand their place in your world. These reactions come from an emotional space they may not be ready to admit, but they can't hide their discomfort when the thought of someone else having the closeness they share with you becomes a possibility. Jealousy in this context is not the toxic, controlling kind. It's often a quiet, almost reluctant acknowledgement of how deeply they care. It shows up in subtle body language shifts, like how their smile feels slightly forced when you talk about another person, or how their posture stiffens when someone else enters the conversation. They might tease you about your interactions with others, masking their feelings with humor, yet there's a subtle tension behind their words that reveals more than they intend to. This kind of possessiveness is not about control. It's about a fear of losing something precious, a fear of watching someone else step into a space they have silently claimed in their heart. You start to notice how protective they are of their time with you, how they make small efforts to keep your attention on them, and how they always seem to want to be the person you confide in first. Possessiveness, when rooted in genuine care rather than insecurity, often shows itself through attentiveness and presence. They start to notice small changes in your behavior or appearance, not because they're overly critical, but because they are deeply tuned into you. They want to know who makes you laugh, who you spend your time with, and who holds your attention because your emotional world matters deeply to them. This creates a silent tension that you can feel even if it's not spoken, an underlying awareness that their feelings for you are growing stronger, and with that comes a natural instinct to guard the bond you share. It's not about keeping you away from others. It's about their quiet desire to be the one who knows you best, who has access to your most vulnerable moments, and who occupies the space in your life that no one else can. This emotional reaction becomes more evident when other people are around. You might notice how their body language subtly shifts, how they position themselves closer to you, how their tone becomes slightly firmer when others are speaking to you, or how they instinctively insert themselves into conversations to stay connected to you. These behaviors may seem small, but they are rooted in something much deeper: the fear of losing closeness and the realization of how much they value your bond. In friendships where feelings have not yet been confessed, these subtle acts of possessiveness often become the silent evidence of love that has not yet been put into words. Even without a verbal acknowledgement, you begin to sense the weight of their emotions, their need to feel secure in their place in your life, and their quiet desire to be more than just a friend. What makes this kind of jealousy so significant is that it stems from genuine emotional investment rather than insecurity alone. It reveals that this connection has moved beyond casual companionship into something deeply meaningful, something they feel protective of because it has become emotionally irreplaceable to them. They may not say they are jealous, they may not admit they feel possessive, but their actions speak louder than their words. The way their eyes follow you in a crowded room, the way their demeanor changes when someone else flirts with you, the way they try to reestablish closeness after seeing you bond with someone else. These subtle shifts create a quiet tension that speaks volumes, revealing that their heart has already chosen you, even if their lips haven't yet said it. When you begin to notice these shifts, the silent tension in their eyes, the way their energy becomes protective and attentive, the playful teasing that carries more weight than laughter alone, the closeness that feels magnetic, the vulnerability that opens doors to their soul, and the subtle jealousy that reveals their fear of losing you. You are no longer standing on the ground of simple friendship. You are walking on the edge of something far more profound. Love rarely announces itself with grand gestures or cinematic confessions. More often, it creeps in softly, weaving itself into everyday interactions until one day you realize that the dynamic between you has changed, that your hearts have already chosen each other before your words ever did. This evolution of